A lot of buyers and sellers look at real estate agents and say, oh, these are people that open the door. They open the door and then they make a bunch of commission. I would turn the whole thing on its head. About 95% of the time, we're doing anything but the transaction. Sure, you have to know your business, but we're therapists, we're cheerleaders, we're coaches, we're marriage counselors, all these other things. I was a psych major in college and I was a history minor. It's like where people and their stories come together. That's what's going on. You're managing the people. It's a people first business. And if you treat it like a transaction, and a lot of agents start by doing that. I know I sure did. I went in thinking, oh, I just want to get the deal done and get paid and all this stuff. And then a couple years in, I'm like, this feels like it doesn't feel right at all. And I had to shift gears and I started to realize that people are trying to do something big in their lives. And if you come from that future place when you're there and you help them paint that picture, all of a sudden the process changes because they know you care and you're focused on what you're trying to help them achieve rather than just how many bedrooms, what school district, and things like that.
So one of the things that you mentioned is sometimes you act like a counselor, a marriage counselor.
All the time. But let's say there was a couple I sat with. They wanted to buy an apartment here in Manhattan where I do business. And I'm sitting there listening to the husband. I'm listening to the wife. He says something. She shoots him down. She's like diminished, just knocking him. And something just didn't add up. I'm watching this unfold and I'm just loud. Like I'm creating space for them to, for the first time, because I would say most people spend more time planning their vacation than they ever do planning for what is really the biggest thing they're going to do. One of the most consequential things they do. So they're in the room and I'm just allowing them to hear each other. And they're just talking past each other, or even worse, they got divorced a year later. And so I'm at the front end of just creating like, what is this going to be? Because they have different communication styles. It's just like marriage. They have to come together. But when it comes to the home, they often haven't had anyone listen to them or ask them these questions. Not everybody goes to marriage therapy either, right? Not everybody thinks they need it. But in that sense, it's really important to allow them to hear each other talk. I'm like that fly on the wall, hearing, oh, how do I have to navigate this? It's the psychology of real estate is really about the people. And I have a whole system that I call the magnetic method. That's all about how do you manage people from here to the closing table.
Emotions do play a large part. So we love to watch Love It or List It. Do you know that
sure.
show?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so people will be in this tiny little house and they can get another house that's much bigger, but they redo the tiny little house and they've always lived there. And so they stay in the tiny little house. That's a completely emotional decision, right? Because they could have had a better house. So how do emotions play into this and how do you work with that?
When we sit down with them, you start to get a sense of their communication style. But all the while, I know that buying a home, moving is one of the most stressful things people put themselves through. So I'm meeting people at their absolutely most stressed out. So my job is to stay super calm. You know, I'm here, like I've seen it before. Yell at me, do whatever you need to do. I don't take anything personally. And people often, as the process goes along, at every step, people's baggage, people's emotional stuff shows up. They get an accepted offer on a property and all of a sudden they freak out. If they have trust issues, then the trust issues come out. If they have money issues, the money issues come out. If they have been burned, just relationship issues. It's all, I really think the home buying process is an emotional journey. It's actually a self-help program in a lot of ways. And it's one that most Americans go through. A self-help program that there is, essentially.
And how do you feel when you're going through this process?
I am so in love with my clients. The crazier they are, the more I love them. I've talked to my agents yesterday. They're having the buyers are having a meltdown about something. And I said, have some compassion for these people. They are so stressed out. They're trying to sell, they're trying to buy, their kids, they're throwing their whole life up in the air. And it's stressful. And I often hear this, every time they introduce me, that person's crazy, right? That person's crazy, that person's crazy. They're not crazy. They're just human beings. I have a lot of compassion for what they're going through. And I'm here to guide them to really be that force for good for them. And at the end of the day, if they find a home that they love, it's going to change the course of their life. The house is like a foundation for everything they want to do in their lives. It's a partnership between them and this house people start their businesses in their house. How many garage bands, garage businesses start? That house is a big deal. And if they get it wrong, it could really cause a lot of problems in their lives too.